Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. And today we're doing your Q&A, which is a question and answers that y'all have asked us to answer for you live on this podcast. So if you're ready to get your questions answered or hear the answers themselves, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Hola.
We need a So I saw something on your Instajizzle that your mental health, you have a hummingbird that visits you. What's going on?
Dude, oh my gosh. Okay, we got to take this back though. So during my best friend's wedding, there was a situation.
Yes.
And it made me feel similar to past behaviors, but it wasn't. And I felt treated by certain people in a way that reflected past behaviors.
Yep.
As if they were perceiving me from that lens. Okay. So it's been weighing on my heart since then. Now I've talked to my best friend, I've talked to everyone and, but a few people. And so that happened. And then we started moving to Optima Funnels and we did the self-guided program, right? So that happened. And we had a lot of things, the move or the travel definitely contributed to it. And I just started crying on Sunday on our way home, our 16-hour trip. And it wasn't the 16-hour trip. Our trip actually was pretty easy. So I'll talk about that after this for more lighthearted. And I just started feeling like the person that I was back then, like how I felt inside. So what I talked about in my mindset mastery about like how you see yourself and how that affects your relationships of like being very negative, what I'm not getting, what's not happening for me. I mean, to the point, you guys, like I have been working on social media and I compare myself to my friends, like, this,
Dude.
like who are getting more followers and getting more comments. And I'm like, why is that happening? And I get into this why not me situation. We're not going viral on things. We're not, I don't know, it makes me, but at the same time, it makes me question, like, am I doing it wrong? But also I can't compare myself to other people because I don't talk about the same things, right? Do I sprinkle them in there? Sure. But like what we do is so different. Like when I'm saying you may have food noise if these three things, read caption, right? That's not taking off as much as eat these three foods to lose weight, right? Which is nothing against my friends. I'm trying to kind of follow their lead because it's working for them, but it's not working for us. So then I get down on myself. And then we have our team and I want to have more people come in. And right now it's like, I'm taking the people because they need to be seen by one of us, right? Or Deanna, who is opening her own practice right now. So she's kind of strapped with time. Anyway, so I'm in this like place of like negativity, negative thoughts, negative like comparison, not body image. So that's positive. I don't know how that's fucking possible. Thank you. But we could find, and right now I've gained weight since the trip, which whatever, I don't care.
Right.
But what I realized is, and I'm crying to Mark and I'm like, I need to come back to the practice, the foundation that I created 10 years ago, which was a spiritual and mental foundation of gratitude, of like, you would be surprised by this. Like I remember texting my friends and be like, I just want to tell you how thankful I am of you. Or I was more verbal about how I felt inside because I feel all those things, but like I said it and I was very like, how are you? I hope you have a good day. Like when have I ever do that?
Kind of text. I get good morning. And I'm like,
we need to fix this. Right.
We're 5 a.m. business girls.
And that's not how I want to be. Like when I was practicing from this kind of spiritual mental practice, it was that. And it didn't feel like an like I had to do it. If I felt the sensation, I would act on it. So it was very much this, you know what you want, act, be the person that you want to be, act in that way, have gratitude, visualize yourself in the position. So a lot of people would call it like manifesting or stuff like that. I know the brain a little bit better, but I also know spiritually that it works, right? I've had this book here. You can see it if you're on YouTube. It's pretty weathered, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm telling Mark this. I'm like, I have to get back to this practice. So Monday morning we get home. And when I used to get into like hard places, I would listen to The Secret, which is a book on manifesting, right? It's for some of you out there, you'd be like, that it's too woo-woo for you, but it really resonated with me of this idea of, if I'm thinking negatively and I continue to get what I don't want, then it has to be true the opposite. It has to be true opposite. If I think positively, I will get what I'm thinking positively about. Does that make sense to you? Like it's that kind of yin and yang.
Yeah.
So when I started writing in this book. This is from 2015. And this is before Mark and I are like, even like, I think we just committed to each other, even though we had dated for like almost a year prior to that, off and on. But that Monday morning, I turned it on my walk, and I'm going to cry. And then Hummingbird just showed up.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know if it's my mentors or just like a sign that, hey, you're like in the right place. And the hummingbird has shown up every day on my walk. Every day.
And it wasn't there.
No. I've never seen hummingbirds in my neighborhood.
Usually it's javelinas.
Huh?
Usually it's javelinas.
Yeah. Those are not the things I want to see. You know?
I mean, maybe that's a like to get a little woo-woo, but maybe that
it's a sign of
a
lot of things. Go ahead.
You're okay. I'm listening.
No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I understand your social media woes and all of that, because from my perspective, and I'm proud of you for talking about Mark with it, because I haven't even talked to Michael about it, because I'm like, he's just going to tell me like, you're fine, don't worry, like kind of that stuff that you're like, I know, but I don't like, that doesn't make me feel any better. Because so with me, and like when you were talking about the social media, I was like, oh gosh, like I feel the exact same. Is like, as I'm slowly backing off because I'm going to have a baby, I feel like I'm looking at other people and they're thriving and I'm not anymore. And I know that's not true, because I've still had people reach out for training and all that. And I've had to say no, because like, I don't want to take new people on in person and then be like, hey, I'm done in like 3 weeks,
Right.
It's just not fair. Like if they want to, I'm more than happy to support them in that time. But like, also when you go into training, you're like, you kind of need a commitment for months, like it's not like a 3-week thing.
Right.
So I'm seeing like these other trainers that do pre and postnatal, and they're like hot mom bodies. And I'm like, that's not my audience though. Like my audience isn't like how to get
your value system either.
Right. And so like, I'm like talking about where you're like, well, we could talk about weight loss, but that's not what we talk about. And it's like, I could talk about how to lose postpartum weight, but like, again, if you lose a postpartum weight, but you still hate yourself, then what are we really doing? And so I'm like trying to remember, like, this is my lane. Like you and I have very similar lanes of like, this is the reality of the situation. This is what you really have to work on. This is like, you can do all that stuff and you probably have, but this is why we do what we do, is because there's more value than just like work out, eat. And there's this gal that I know from a past life of mine. And I mean, she's gorgeous, and she's always loved fitness and working out too. Fine. But now she's going to be a trainer. And it's like, I'm looking at it like, there's so much more to just like opening up your Instagram and being a trainer. You know what I mean? And so so then you're thinking like, how the fuck are these people that are just opening up Instagrams to be a trainer and being like, DM me for booking? Like, it is so much more than that, you know? And
Mhm.
so I'm trying to be like, just keep your blinders on, keep going, you know, like
Yes.
what we're doing is great. I am so happy with what the work we do. Like, I'm so proud of what we do. I'm so like
Yes.
my group call today again was fabulous. Like they are making such progress. And so I'm like, remember that. Like even my client, the new one that started for our SEO stuff and
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. I mean, she was like, I had no idea about any of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, great. Like
Yay!
I'm happy to, and she's like, I always thought I was eating so many calories, but now that I'm like logging it, I realize I don't even eat that much. And I'm like, girl, you know, like
Yes.
that's what I thrive off of, not of like, look how thin you are. And but it's hard when it keeps coming at you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'm saying,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, I do. Like, and it's like you've got your friends around it, and I've got my friends around it, and my people that I follow, and it's like, God, could we just?
My
I
friends
don't even
don't.
know.
Hey, friends, if you're listening, help
Yeah,
a girl out. It's free to repost.
yeah.
Our
Like
clients do,
our
but
clients are great. They share our stuff because they've been there,
yes.
and so
I want to like bring this back together. So one of the speakers on The Secret is Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul.
oh yeah,
Jack Canfield has been a mentor to me. A what is it called? A not vicarious.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Like I've never met him,
A
right? So
person that
like
you reach out to for guidance.
I've never met him before. So
Yeah,
it's like a God, what's the word?
a vicarious uh
Is it
mentor.
vicarious? Yeah, we'll call it that. Oh, people are like, it's this word.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so he helped me through The Secret. He helped me through The Success Principles, which was another of his books. And this morning, as I'm walking, I'm listening to like Juicy Scoop, one of my silly podcasts. I was like, you know what? I wonder if Jack Canfield has a podcast. And he
Guess what?
does.
He does.
And it's funny because the one that they just recently wrote was about like food psychology.
Oh shit, really?
And then the next one was about like, don't give up. If you believe in it so much, they had 100 publishers not accept Chicken Soup for the Soul. They had people quit the job because they didn't believe in this like woo-woo shit. He just, and I'm like, I needed to hear that. Like I needed to hear that. And funny too, like my client yesterday, who's I believe she's maybe, I want to say she's 47, but I think she might be 51. I always get it wrong. But she was saying things about herself. And I was like, oh, that's interesting because I think that way sometimes. So, like, there's been a lot of reflection just in the past few days of like declaring this and being guided to stuff that's very helpful. But like, I'm going to send you these two podcasts. The one is on Wild Fit, I think it's called. And he's just basically like, you got to eat whole foods, people, you know?
Yeah.
And then he introduced this concept of like post diabetes. So people who actually change their lifestyle and come out of diabetes, they shouldn't be called pre-diabetic anymore. They should be called post-diabetic because they're actually coming out.
Uh-huh.
So that was interesting. But the other one was just super uplifting. And I think we can both use it. He's going to have I almost want to pay for us to go to one of his workshops. I want to like see him and like, I would just cry. Like, you literally saved my life. I love you so much. Because I loved those books. So I was like,
Those
oh,
are huge.
I mean, he's a gazillionaire, you know,
Yeah.
and he talks about it of like, he made a goal for himself for $100,000 to make $100,000. He wrote a check, he put it on the ceiling. He woke up every day, $100,000. And he thought in the shower one day, he's like, if I sold my book for a quarter to however many people, that would be $100,000, right? And so he goes, well, I need to find a place that has more exposure because obviously this is before social media.
Mhm.
And he was at the grocery store or something like that. He saw the National Enquirer, which at that time wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
And then he spoke at this event, and this it was for like teachers. This woman came up to him and she's like, I really enjoyed what you talked about. I do some freelance work. He's like, oh, who do you freelance for? Or I'm a writer. He said, oh, what do you write for? And he's like, she says, oh, I'm freelance, but most of my stuff goes to the National Enquirer. And it was just like that, like bing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how he made his first $100,000. And then they tried it again for $1 million. And that's the check, his publishing check or whatever it was for Chicken Soup for the Soul. So his story is interesting. It is a lot more about like faith and like believing in yourself, visualizing things that you want. And so here's the thing for us. What the fuck's, what could go wrong?
Well, and nothing
if we visualize and
gone wrong either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I think it's interesting that you're having this feeling, because usually when you have this feeling, it's not as doomsday, but I'm like, no, we got like, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. But I'm feeling
I'm not doomsday right now.
I'm just, yeah.
Woe
like,
is me.
Yes. But it's like, I'm feeling it too for a different reason of just kind of like little by little, what I've worked so hard for is being put on pause. But then I don't even know what the unpause looks like too. Like, I know like some stuff like that I'm like, no, that's definitely staying, Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna wink, wink.
I have to do that with my mouth when I wink.
Wink, wink.
That's not sexy.
Yeah. But like, what else does it look like? And it's like, I don't even know,
Well, as I told my client today, sometimes when, especially in major change, like she went through a breakup, and through that breakup, she kind of had to strip down. She broke up. She changed jobs. Like she did all this change at once. And that was 2 years ago. Not saying that yours is going to be 2 years, but the concept, she's in such an amazing spot today, right? From the work she's done. And obviously this gives you an opportunity because you've even talked about it, right? Like there have been times where you get overwhelmed or you're tired or like, and I do too. And then that's to me usually a sign of like, okay, like it's not what I want you to hear is it's not unknown. It's what the fuck do I want out of this and then creating it. So I'm going to do these podcasts and we're going to work on this together. We're going to do our gratitude in the morning. We're going to here's something that they talked about. I shared this with the group today. Your end of day download. So you look at yourself in the mirror and you need to acknowledge you need to acknowledge the following things: your accomplishments that day. Now, this is specific, guys, to what you're trying to build confidence around. So he was talking about how we don't do the uncomfortable things because we're not confident in them. But in order to be confident, we have to do them. We have to do them. We've got to do the exercise. We've got to kind of make the diet plan. We've got to, whatever you're trying to change. In order to build confidence in it, we've got to do it. But you guys are looking for perfection in something you don't even have any confidence in. So he said, as you're doing, we're going to acknowledge the accomplishments, which we do in our group, acknowledge the challenges you overcame, which we also do in our group. And this is my favorite. Acknowledge the disciplines you kept. We don't talk about that.
So wild that you said that statement was because of literally for one of the gals on the group cohort right now, I'm like, you're focused so much on this perfection that you're missing the progress that you've been making over time. Because she's in that point of like, is it even worth it to try and change? Is it even like kind of like, and I'm just like, and so we had that conversation today of like, your definition of perfection is causing you to, I said this a lot more eloquently on the call, but this definition.
We're not this mean.
Like you're trying to keep reaching this perfection, but then you're failing and then saying like, well, then I failed and therefore I'm not perfect. And then that's coming, and then you're self-sabotaging all the things that you're trying to work on. So like, until you can start recognizing that progress is not physical, like that it's on these other areas. So like, for example, you're aware that you're like feeling things instead of stuffing them down. Now you're identifying what those feelings are, where they're coming from. You're sharing them in the group. Like all of that is progress, but it's not going to come out physically. And it doesn't feel perfect to do because there's like a shame and guilt for feeling those feelings. Cause it's like, oh my gosh, should I like, I shouldn't feel this way. I should feel better. And I was like, it's just okay to feel that way. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Just be
totally okay
human.
to feel that way. You don't have to
Yep.
do anything with it right now. Like,
Mm-mm.
you can just feel. And that's
Just be
way
human.
more progress than what you've done right now than leading up to this point because you
Yeah.
weren't feeling.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Look at us.
Vulnerability dump for the fans.
We love it. I
Yeah.
hope I see my hummingbird. I'm going to be so sad the day
Oh
that
my,
it's like,
if you don't see it, we're gonna be like,
it's
that's
like,
it. We're going under.
oh, and the other thing I would decided I was going to try to do is go back to church.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I like going to church.
That's good for you.
I think. I haven't, so I had a church, but it's far that I loved it. Like I left there and I was like, I could do anything, like,
Where is
and it
it?
wasn't very, like, it's on like, 67th Avenue and I don't remember. It's up there. It's when I used to live up there. So I've got to find a new one. So there we go.
There
Shall we
you go.
talk about something that people want to hear about? Let's talk about our subject for this today.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, listeners. Coach Amanda here. For July, we are letting you know that our August cohort of the Mindset of Mommy's 8-week program is launching. So for this program, we are going to focus on your health before and during pregnancy through education, support, and confidence. In this program, you can expect to have more confidence for pregnancy by learning the benefits of movement and having a structured program to follow. The program will be 2 to 3 days per week, along with beginner and advanced movement options. In this program, you can also expect to increase your nutrition quality with personalized coaching from yours truly. We'll gain awareness to the changes you'll experience mentally, physically, and emotionally during pregnancy, create a strong network of support by learning about a diverse range of professionals to include in your health during this time, as well as gain education on testing done throughout pregnancy. There'll also be a toolkit of resources that includes PDF documents, additional literature that I recommend, podcasts, and social media pages that support your healthiest pregnancy yet. On top of this, you'll get weekly community group calls, weekly written reviews, and our private forum to engage with other like-minded women. You can sign up for this program today for $3.99, and we will start our August cohort August 5th. So if you're interested, please visit mindsetofmommies.com to get more information and to sign up.
All right, let's Q and Hey it. I love
Hey.
this. New name. Q and Hey, babe. All right. So, as if you don't know, on Sundays we post on our stories. Again, myself and the team, it's under Mindset of Matter Coaching. Amanda is fitbyamanda.az. On our stories, you can ask questions and or there is a link below to get your questions answered, y'all. Do it to it. So let's get going. We got some awesome guys. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. We have like 6 questions today, so let's fucking do this.
Okay.
Let's start with this. Let's do the macro questions together. Well, not together, but back to back. So, can you fat cycle your macros? I find some days I'm on the lower side, but might be high on the next day. Or is it bad if for some days you're lower, like 40 to 60 grams, but weekly it comes to 400 grams? So, we just talked about this in the macronutrient episode. It is 1000% okay for you to, number one, average your macros if you are trying to hit all 3, right? So we have some low days, some high days, and it just averages out over the course of the week. What I want people to understand is when we are giving people macronutrients, we're looking at it from a week's perspective too.
Yes.
Like your calories are based on your averages over the week, including the consistency with movement, how much we're moving on average, your BMR, and so on. So if you can hit those on average, totally fine. I had a client who worked in a plant, like she had a very active job. But on those days, I mean, she worked in a plant where like they had to be kind of quarantined, right? So like going to like the office break room wasn't a thing until your break was up or like when it was time. And so on those days we had lower protein. It was just hard for her to hit. And on her days off, it was much easier for her to hit, and it averaged and she loved it. Yeah. So, and like I talked about for myself, I just kind of let my carbs and fats fall as they do. And then my proteins are the thing that I am consistent with. But again, like we talked about too, some days they're 125, other days they're 145. So they average out. I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely okay. Thoughts?
I pulled up my calories just to like give an
Oh,
example.
good idea.
So on carbs, I've had 195, 241, 213, 252, but my average is 225. My goal is around 265, so I'm below that. Fats, I was at 86, 80, 100, 112. So average is 94, goal is about 90. And then protein, 186, 134, 145, 155 for an average of 155. My minimum is 140.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Booyah.
You can do
Yeah,
that.
don't make it so hard on yourself. Like, as long as you're getting those nutrients in. My thing was a lot of people were like super low carb or super low protein coming into our program sometimes,
Mhm.
especially people who are like keto freaks. So I would definitely, because we're going to call you guys now. Sorry. Not sorry. Anywho, and they weren't getting enough carbs in, and they're like, I feel like shit. I don't understand why I don't have any energy. And I'm like, I do. I
Yeah.
understand. I had another client and I was like, I think you need more carbs in your diet. She's like, I'm just not seeing progress. And she eats really well and she trains like a beast. She's not seeing progress. And I was like, why don't we add some more carbs to your diet and see what happens? So absolutely okay. And let us know how that works for you. It's very freeing, very
Yeah.
freeing. So the second question was like, how do you know when it's time to adjust your macros? This is a great question, and I'm glad someone asked it because we did not touch on this on our episode. Okay, so your macros are based on your age, your gender, your height, your weight, and your activity level. Okay, so let's just say that your activity level is relatively the same and you're in a calorie deficit. Okay, so we're in a fat loss phase. The way I see it, for every 5 pounds you lose, you'll want to adjust the macros. Now, it's only going to adjust in probably like 10 grams, 20 grams, maybe. But we have to remember, as you become smaller, you require less energy. So your requirements for proteins, carbs, and fats is going to change as you become a smaller version of yourself. So that's my take on adjusting for a deficit. What about you, Boo?
Yes, I'm going to adjust. Let me look at the question again to make sure I want to answer this correctly. To adjust the macro specifically is I adjust based on what the client prefers. So for example, say we start them at like, I'm going to give generic numbers that mean nothing, like 100 grams of protein, 200 carbs, 65 fats. And I'm realizing they're getting like 80 fats, maybe 150 carbs, and then 100 protein, and they're feeling guilty about that exchange. I'm going to adjust
Oh,
because
that's a good point. Yeah.
like to me, like even like that's at maintenance, right? So then, okay, so I'm going to adjust based on, because the client tends to prefer more fats compared to carbs, and protein stays the same. Then as we go down like into a deficit, I try and leave protein alone for the most part, and
If they're at the range that.
and I try and leave fats alone as much as I can and adjust the carbs. So like you said, if we're not making progress, then we need to say, is this too low? And so then I'll add carbs back in a little by little. Now, if I think the question, so how do you know when it's time to adjust your macros? I would say in a blanket statement, when you're trying to adjust your goal. So if you're in a if you're trying to go into a fat loss phase, that's when we need to adjust our macros. If you're going into a surplus phase, that's when we need to adjust our macros. And so that's how I would answer that one.
I would say too, like, depending on how you feel, right? So say that you are in a fat loss phase and you are not getting enough carbs in and you're just feeling very fatigued. And I mean, there's some of that's going to happen just because you're getting less energy in. But depending on how you feel, you can also make those adjustments, even in maintenance, right? And or, if our goal is to really building body mass, then our protein requirements are going to be a bit higher than if it is to maintain, right? So I like that. Anytime you're adjusting your goal and or we're feeling a bit of like we're feeling fatigued, or maybe even we're not recovering as well. And then of course, as we are losing weight or gaining, right? So we would do this the opposite, but as we're losing weight, we want to adjust our macros and in that case, calories, because again, you require less energy, you require less of those macronutrients, and you want to make that adjustment. So hard and fast for me is like 5 pounds up or down. So adjust either way. And then again, when your goal, you're changing your goal and or you feel like crud, we need to figure out why. Right.
Yep. Mhm.
Now that might not be the reason why you feel that way, but if you're not getting enough carbs in, then we need to like increase them for sure. So good. What's next?
Let's go to the longer one. So first, I wanted to say I love your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. We love Jess.
I love listening to all the advice that you two ladies give. My question, I lift heavy, walk a lot, and try to be really good with my diet. I'm 32 years old. Holla. If you need to know that, we always love to know that. I do have visible abs above my belly button. However, my stomach below my belly button sticks out. I don't like how it looks and honestly is extremely uncomfortable most of the time. Any advice or ideas why and what I can do? Do you have thoughts on this? Because I have a lot of thoughts on this.
I want you to start because you're my pelvic floor babe.
So when I have a client who's got the upper visible abs, but then you've got the lower belly pooch, my automatic first thought is that you're an upper ab gripper, meaning you like to bear down. So essentially when you're bracing, your upper abs are taking over a lot of that stability. But the air, if you think of your belly as like a canister, the air and the pressure system has to go somewhere. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to try my best to describe it for those who are not watching. But if you think of like, you can see, I'm going to put my hands together in a bowl shape or like a circle shape. If I'm gripping my upper two pinky and index fingers, my other two, my ring fingers and pinky.
Bring your hands up more.
Have to bulge out. So I have to
yeah.
So like thinking of this is going to grip, but the air has to go somewhere down here. And think of my belly button is in between my middle and my ring finger. So that's where you're going to get this lower belly pooch in one way. So that could just be a breathing mechanism. The second part is too, you're probably not actually working your lower abs in an efficient way. And what I see a lot of women do is they'll do hanging leg raises, but they're not using their lower abs. They're actually using their hip flexors or momentum. So now you're actually not engaging them appropriately. Your breathing mechanism is off, and then it's going to cause that lower belly pooch. So what do we do about this is one, we need to, it's called like a fascia roll. Essentially, you're going to roll the skin of your upper belly and kind of think of it separating from your body. And it doesn't have to be hard, but just kind of loosening that. We need to really calm down probably the obliques and the like rectus abdominis. So like think of your twist and your sit-ups. And then what we need to do is work the lower abs, and it's going to take time. It's not like within a week, this is all going to be solved, because now you have to think of the breathing issue on this too. So we need to do marches. And so marches are a modified dead bug. And why I say marches is because people go into the dead bug, but they're not engaging the lower abs. They're just going into the dead bug and they're feeling the abs. So they think, great, I'm working my abs, but you're not engaging the ones that you want. And so we need to go into marches, and then we need to do they're really challenging, but you're going to lay on your side. We should probably link a video to this.
We will link a video to this.
Okay, we will link a video to this.
Boom, done.
What you do is lay on your side. Your feet are going to be against a wall, and you're almost going to be like in a what's a side lying position, but like with your legs bent. So almost like think of like you're sleeping in bed with your knees tucked, and you're going to bring your knees up very gently. So think of like a leg lift, but my feet are pressing into the wall for balance. I'm bringing my knees up, and I'm feeling my lower abs turn on. It's a very small movement, but that will help as well.
Yeah. So. What do you think about like putting your feet up against the wall so we're deactivating the hip flexors as well?
Like as in like a deactivated sit-up? I think if they can feel the like deep core system doing that, yes.
It'll be more for someone who's a little bit more in tune to their body.
I find that they don't like, that's why I start with marches, because it's, I put hands on the lower belly, and you want to be able to feel that. If I feel my hip flexors kick in, then I need to shorten my range of motion of lifting that hill until I can even do that. A quadruped hold is really good too for that. So I'm on my hands and knees.
Thank you.
I'm on my hands and knees. I tuck my toes under. I do a big exhale and I lift. And I'm not, again, like,
I'm doing this as she's saying.
I'm not exhale gripping, but I'm exhale, like kind of thinking of, again, drawing a blueberry up for your vagina or zipping your clit. Like all of that needs to engage for the lower abs. And it's really, really hard. And if you don't know what you're doing with it, you could be continually making that problem greater and greater and greater. So that is
it's funny because since we started working together, have really focused on my breath, and I'm going to say something to you and tell me if I'm wrong. When I'm doing it correctly, I look bigger on the inhale around my belly. So I'm breathing to the front, back, side, right?
Yeah.
So the way I think about it, it's not my stomach sticking out, but I'm like thicker.
Yeah.
In my core, and then I suck that blueberry up on the way up. That's an easy part.
Yep.
But yeah, I was watching my body and I was like, it almost is like you want to look all fit and lean in that squat, but you're like, you're engaging that core and you're trying to do it in that cylinder, right? So my whole core it just thickens, it goes out and then it goes in. So I was just paying attention to the way it looks.
Curious for a picture of her belly. If you're comfortable, you can send that to me.
Yes.
Because a lot of times what you'll see with the like upper ab grippers too is they've got the stomach and then you'll see the line crease too. That's a good indication you're an upper ab gripper. So
well, and two, like we don't know if Jess has had children. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Oftentimes too, it's a similar thing, but sometimes just moms in general. And I just had this conversation with my client this week of just that lower belly, and it's been that way since childbirth. And no matter how lean they get, there's still that little bit of, skin really is what it is. But for me, I also have a hard time. I don't necessarily have any bulge in my lower belly, but I have a hard time developing my lower abs. And so if that's the case, we've got to develop them. That means we have to do the core work on top of the compounds.
Yes.
So I do core 4 days a week right now with decline sit-ups, hanging leg raises, proper hanging leg raises. What else do I do? The ab roller.
Romanian sit-ups.
I do crunches with the rope. And then GHD sit-ups as well. So it's they're muscles, and they're muscles just like any other muscle. And while yes, absolutely, we can get super shreddy and look great just doing compounds, if we really want to focus on that area and it's not what Coach Amanda's talking about, we have to incorporate more of it into our program. It's like if I want bigger glutes, I need to be working my glutes 2 to 3 times a week. Right.
Well, and to remember, like, it's not just like your 6-pack abs too. Like there's the obliques, the lower TAs, and then there's internal, external obliques, and then your rectus abdominis too. So there's like 4 sections that you could be working on.
Absolutely. Oh, and I do wood choppers. Please send a photo.
Yeah, I do farmer's carries. I do the wall thing that I was talking about. I'm trying not to do wood chops a lot because my obliques are getting tight. And so I'm really focusing on like my lower belly and just making sure that's
pal off as well.
Oh, pal off is great. Yeah. So
yes, please send a photo so that we can know a little bit more. Let us know too, like if you have had a child.
I looked at her Instagram and I don't think she has one unless they don't post them.
Yeah. Hey, that could be a thing.
Yeah.
Love it. Love that. Okay. I'm going to leave the fun one for the last. So there's 2 fun ones. So let's go into them. Which one do we want first? Advice?
Sure.
Okay. Venus 1432.
That's Sam.
We should have said everyone's name.
Samantha.
Sammy. I saw her. I know. I saw her name come through and I was like, who dis?
I know, that's
New
what I
name. Who dis?
well, and then I did her interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent her the intro, like, of, like, introducing her. I was like, "Anything you want me to add?" And she goes, "No, but my last name changed." I'm like, "I've been working with you. You've been married for, like, 6 months, and now you tell" like, "Okay."
Oh, I saw the Mindset of Mommy stuff come through. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, yeah.
and then it so, like, it came through as her maiden or her married name, and then something in Everfit showed me her
Her
maiden name.
other
I
name.
was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. Anyways, hi Sam.
Yes.
Okay. Advice on becoming a coach and personal trainer. What was your favorite program and certification you got? I love this question so much.
Okay.
So I'm a bit different
Yes.
because my career is based in helping people in a different capacity. Um, I became a therapist, right? And the reason I became a therapist is both codependent and not. I very much wanted to help people who've gone through similar things as me. And I very much realized that I needed to work on my stuff first before I was going to help anyone. So then, as I talked about in our first episode, I realized like maybe being a therapist wasn't the boundaries that I wanted to keep with my clients. And including my mental boundaries and emotional boundaries. And
It's
so I transitioned into a coach, whereas a lot of people just become a coach, right? So my experience is a bit different because I have, God, 5,000 face to face client hours, right? And then also I have probably the equivalent in like group fitness, personal training in person as well. But my biggest advice to someone who wants to become a coach. Oh, this is good. You ready for this?
Mhm.
Figure out your shit because there's going to be a client who irks your wagon, or there's going to be a client who's not successful. There's going to be a client who puts their shit on you. There's going to be a client who is looking at you as their parent figure and feels like you're disappointed in them. And there's just that systemic relationship of like my shit versus their shit. And as a coach, especially if you have poor boundaries, poor self-esteem, this shit will mess you up. You will think that you're a failure, you'll have imposter syndrome, you'll start to be mean to your clients because why can't they figure it out or say the wrong thing. Now, I'm not telling y'all like you need to go through full like therapy, but at least know your boundaries, know what you are willing to put up with, know your triggers, know the shit that like irks you in other relationships because it's gonna come up here. It will come up when you're helping other people. So, my advice is to take an inventory of yourself. And we have coaches that just go through like our self-guided. Now, obviously, Sam understands this stuff now. So she is ready, girl. She's ready, right? She did the method, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. You
She's done
you
it
didn't
all.
give me a face, so I needed
Well,
a
because
face
I'm
from you.
thinking when you're naming off these interactions, I was like, had that, had that, had that,
Yeah,
had that, had that. I've had literally every single one of those.
right.
And it is so hard sometimes.
Mhm.
And I know you've
Mhm.
known that because I've reached out to you and been like, I am just struggling. And
Or sometimes I have to ask her,
yeah, and you've reached out to
"What are
me
you
and
making up about this
yes,
person?"
yes. So,
And I do the same. So I interrupt this episode to bring you our second July promo, which is $48 for our Mindset Method self-guided coaching program. This program was designed to help you rewire your mind through my psychological curriculum. The method, know, name, notice, and nurture. This 16-course series that you'll have 1 year's access to is going to allow you to understand and put the puzzle pieces together to why you can't keep yourself as a priority. We'll help you catch self-defeating beliefs. We'll help you create new boundaries inside and out. And we will help you reframe your mind so that you are number one in your life. If you're interested in signing up for this program, you'll find the link in the show notes below. Again, it's a 16-course series. You'll get a weekly reflection that goes through the method. You'll get daily journal prompts. You'll get access to our community forum. And as a bonus, you will get access to the Mindset Movement Fitness app for $1 for the first month. So you guys definitely want to join. So if you want more information, check the show notes below. Now back to the show.
Is there anything you want to add to your perspective of, well, what certification would you do?
Wait, I wanted to say one thing is we'll have coaches like go through our program because it helps them understand like their rules around food, like their kind of obsessions, because it very much can, like if you're someone who's in this, who wants to come into this industry, it's usually because you have a good work ethic around workouts, because you have like a decent diet, but also you might have body image issues and obsession and all of that. However, you power through that and you think other people are cut from the same cloth, and they are not. The average human is not as like fixated as a lot of us are who come into this industry. So that was my advice. What advice do you have?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say, don't do it because you love to work out. Because I will say most people that you're going to end up working with don't love working out. They're paying for a trainer to get them to just do the workout and be done with it. And so, like you said, they're not going to, like, I'll see a lot of times, like, they're not following my advice. They're not doing this. And what I read from that is you're not meeting the client where they're at. You're not listening to them. You're not taking away their life and trying to get yourself, I don't want to say involved in it, but like you're not putting yourself in their shoes and analyzing what can be done by them. And like, I get it. Sometimes it's like, you seriously can't just get X thing, because I don't want to have anybody identify. And it's like, no, that they literally can't. And you don't necessarily need a reason, because they probably don't even know the reason. So you're really diving into someone's life and trying to pick it apart to figure out what is their breaking point, what got them here, how are they perceiving themselves. And it's a lot more than just they're going to do the workout because they enjoy working out. They just don't want to write the program. Like, that's what I see a lot of people think it is. Like, how do I write a program for this? So even like on the forum I saw today, someone commented like, I have a client who stopped drinking alcohol a year ago. Yay. But now she's addicted to sugar. What do I do? And it's like, well, that's
nothing to do with you, homeboy.
But that is also nothing to do with what the problem is. Like, the problem is not being addressed. And so here's your opportunity to kind of work on it. And the other thing too is you have to remember, if you are going into this business, you're going to be really involved in someone's life in a very vulnerable state for some people. And maybe that's just who we work with and who I work with, like with the moms and stuff, or the pregnancy. It's a lot sometimes. And so for me, I'm not very good at like telling the future of like, okay, I'm going to need a break. I should schedule my breaks more regularly. But it's something to keep in mind of, these people aren't here just to work out. Like, there's a lot more to it.
Right. And, 90% of this job is being a therapist.
Right.
And if you, have a team, because obviously we are therapists and mindset experts, but if you see someone struggling, that's when you have to realize, this is another thing that coaches do. So it's another piece of advice, is like, you're not God. You don't have the answers for that person, because they have an addictive mind. They have codependent patterns. They may have unresolved needs that then the sugar now has been, the new vice. That's beneath or outside of your scope of practice. So be the coach to say, hey, I've noticed that sugar has become this. Let's find some therapists that you feel comfortable with. Ask them to get a release of information so you and the therapist can work together. Maybe, see if they can go into, other programs and work as kind of like the captain of their ship. And you may
Mhm.
not have all the answers, but I will tell you, you're going to learn a shit ton if you collaborate with their other people. Now, in our program, our clients we have a different lens that we see things through. We can see, like you said, this person just can't, right? And in my mind, oftentimes that's a distortion because they think that they can, but their brain is telling them, well, that doesn't fucking matter if I just make this
Right.
small change. Like I'm supposed to be, working out 7 days a week. And they have this glorified, like this fantasy of what they're supposed to be doing. And because we're asking them to do this small thing, they think it's useless.
Mhm.
And that's for us to kind of navigate that distortion, that all or nothing thinking, right? So I think that's, yeah, very, very good. My favorite certification, none that I did I will say this, my NSAM personal training certification was the one that I felt I had to put the most effort
Effort.
towards.
I will
Yeah.
say that's the one I felt I put the second most effort towards.
What was your first? Prenatal?
So I have 2 prenatal ones, pregnancy ones. The, what is it? It's, pregnancy and postpartum corrective exercise specialist is the one that I worked hardest on and the one that I use the most often. It's the one that I would recommend to most people who are interested in what my kind of genre that I do.
Yeah. No, I love NASM. I love precision nutrition for nutrition.
Mhm.
I did
I would
nutrition
not do
also
NAS
through,
Yeah, I would not do
yeah,
NASM through nutrition.
it was a bit easier. Precision nutrition is good about like looking beyond just the food, right? So I
Mhm,
think that they have a little bit more in regards to coaching people through nutrition.
mhm.
I have two certifications from Girls Gone Strong.
Yeah.
I have a certification through NCI that is a hormone specialist. I do like the integrative health practitioner certification that I'm going through, but I haven't finished it, so I don't want to give anything on that. But the thing that changed my life, and again, I'm unique in this space, was my post-induction therapy training, which is all about codependency and why we do dumb shit.
I think both of us, yeah, I think it would be interesting to ask, like, because Desley's been a trainer for most of her career, right? I know she went
Yep.
I think it'd be interesting to ask her that question because both of us have had, like, other careers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had your therapy stuff, and I had and still have the audiology stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of what I learned there of just interacting with people and engaging with people and trying to make them feel comfortable and listening to their struggles and applying reasonable solutions comes from that too.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk to people. Yeah,
Yes.
it's it,
Yes, you have to know how to talk to people and just I think one thing that I was really in the beginning nervous about was I was almost trying to match the client and
mm,
uh like make sure like hopefully they liked me, right?
mm,
Whereas now I'm at the point of like I am who I am, like this is what I offer, this is how I talk, like if I'm just not the right fit for everybody, and that's okay
mm-hmm,
because the right
mm-hmm.
person is supposed to be working with me.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great question. And as we go through our own certifications, we'll definitely share them with you guys.
Uh-huh.
And let us know if you have more questions on that. It's such a great topic. And if you can get any sort of mindset training to at
Do
least
it.
understand behavior, do it. Do it, do it, do it.
Well, and
I
to
haven't seen
know
any good
you have
certifications
several
out there.
options of well, you have several options of mindset training of the
Yes.
self-guided group and then like one-on-one coaching.
Yep. Our
And
self-guided
yeah.
program is a great place to start for that. For those of you who are like, I don't know any of my stuff. I don't know my boundaries. I don't
Mhm.
know my relationship with food. I don't know my rules and expectations. I don't know how my family fucked me up. I've got a program for you, babe.
Mhm.
Self-guided program. Put it in the show notes. Ira. All right, last question. And I love this one.
Who are your, and your is emphasized, biggest influences in the fitness and health space?
Love this. So, my girl crush is Jen Winderstrom. I love her so much. I love everything she's about. She is a baddie in the gym. She's just really down to earth. She was one of the coaches on like Biggest Loser.
Oh,
As I watch her, like she has meals out with her friends and she like posts about like drinking IPAs and just regular life. So I've always loved her. I did a photo shoot once and I like put my picture up next to her and tagged her and she like liked it and like said something back and I love it. So just from girl crush perspective, she has been one of my biggest influences. I would say Adam Schaefer and the Mind Pump team. Why Adam specifically? I'm going to talk about how each of them has influenced me. Adam and I met, and he was so interested in this combination of what I did, and he was like, "Oh, you should do this with your couples coaching, like make them both of them have to go through the same program like you're doing over here, just so excited that it just gave me even more life to like say I'm on, the right track. And he's such a brilliant mind when it comes to business. I very much look to him for answers, and I'm lucky enough to be on calls. I haven't been on them in the past couple months because we've been traveling and they were like at 8 p.m. and I go to sleep then. So
yeah.
Justin Andrews, Mind Pump again. Justin, like when I just love that you have someone of that caliber, like, they're very popular and they meet people all the times, but like just him remembering us and what we do and asking how things are going and just being really real and all of that. And like the other guys and supporting the podcast have been helpful. But Justin, I love his knowledge in movement, and it's something beyond my scope for sure. Like his knowledge in athletic training and power training and all of that. It's mind-boggling to me, and I always ask him, when I can. And once I finish the one that I'm trying to read, because y'all know I only read books like 2 pages and then I throw them out. I'll ask him for advice on that. And then obviously Sal is just very knowledgeable and he makes me want to be a PubMed nerd, but I won't read those either. So I get a little bit of a summary from my research articles, but always educating myself for sure, but just in different ways. And then throughout my life, I would say, I don't know. I feel like I was kind of on an island for this. It was just something I knew. It's something that I continue to pursue. I've talked about her. My mother-in-law is a big influence in now my new goals towards longevity. I want to be playing pickleball like her when I'm 81. So I would say her too. What about you, girl?
I'm going to take a different route. And I'm going to say my biggest influences are the connections I have made. And yeah, so, well, I mean, I was like, I can think of Instagram people, but they don't.
I've interacted with at least 4 out of those people.
Yeah, I've interacted with 0. So I would like, and what I mean by that is, so we'll say you, for example, have been an influence on like how I coach mindset wise and just learning new things as a coach, and like believing in me was a big one because you were one of the people that pushed me to do this. And so I would say in that sense, you were an influence of like, and then, but like incorporating the mindset piece of it and like being like, well, you got some stuff. What is that? And I'm like, oh yeah. Too.
Yeah.
So that, and then I would say, so like the people that I have networked with here locally, or even honestly, I've talked to other people that network with throughout the United States, but like movement wise of like taking stuff that I learned from the chiropractors or taking stuff that I learned from the pelvic PTs and applying that and thinking of like, okay, how does this girl move and where is the breakdown coming from? Because it may not be her butt, it could be her feet, it could be her knees, it could be her hips. And then I think what also influences me is their availability, which it makes me want to do a better job, right? Because I'm going to have to either send this client back to them when they follow up for their appointments, or I'm going to have to talk to you about a struggle I'm having with a client. So I want to make sure I cover all my bases. So it makes me want to do a better job. So that way you're not like, well, why didn't you do that? You know, it's like, oh, duh. And sometimes that happens because we just get so stuck in the struggle with some people, but it's okay. And then, but even like I take a lot of what I learn from them. And then it like you said, I want to be almost like the manager of their healthcare. So like you said, I've had a client that I was like, you need to go see this chiropractor. So she did. And then I'm like, you haven't seen your pelvic PT in a while. So she did. And then she also needed a therapist. And I was like, you need a therapist. And she did. And so now I kind of got this circle of that we all touch base on her. And so that way she doesn't have to load as much of like, Amanda said this, and then so-and-so said this, and she's trying to connect the dots. So that's who influences me, is it makes me want to be just better at what I do, but also communicate more effectively too. And I think it's nice to know that people like you trust me with clients in the business, and they trust me with helping people that they work with. And so that's nice. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, like our clients influence us the most. Like we had this conversation about the method with a client recently. And, you know, this goes back to Sam's question of like never being too big for your britches, you know, like never being very humble and like this can always improve. And the people that we are helping are the people who are going to improve it. And we've changed the method many times, changed the reflections and just how we ask questions, because they're like, if I ever see someone who says, I don't understand what you're saying here, I'm like, oh, well, that means I got to redo it. Right. And I think at this point, and the funny thing about that is, so the conversation that Amanda had earlier this week or last week was the client felt like she had gone through like a certain amount. Maybe you should describe it.
On their text conversation?
Yeah, how she was like, oh, I was here. And I was like, okay, well, what's next? And then she got right into the next phase of the method. And she's like, oh, yep, this is exactly where I need to be.
I was like, which one are we talking? So yeah, it's interesting because what will happen is clients will reach a point in where they feel lost. And I feel like they feel overwhelmed. They feel like they are realizing that they have a different identity than what they thought they did or what they told themselves they did. And they reach this point of, they almost feel like demise, or maybe they're not doing it good enough. They
want it fixed.
Yes, they want it fixed. And so what Christina's talking about with this specific client is she was talking about, I did this assignment for the 1 week, and this is our group cohort. So they have got assignments every day that they fill out to kind of untangle whatever the topic is of the week. And so on Sunday, she had gotten to like the reflection for the week and felt like, well, now what do I do? Like, I feel lost. And ironically, she said, and then the next day, it was like you guys were in my brain, because the next topic was literally about the questions that I had had from the prior week and going into resolving all of that. And so I'm telling them, that's great, because that's the idea of these kind of programs that Christina has created, of they build on top of each other. But also what you need to recognize is it's okay that you didn't have a solution. It's okay that there wasn't an answer, because I think so much of like diet culture and body image and nutrition and all that shit that it comes with training and working out and fitness is there's always a solution, right? You don't like yourself? Here, do this. You don't like how your thighs look? Do this. You don't like, you don't want to have carbs and gain fat? Do this. And sometimes, actually, I'll say all the time, there isn't a solution. It's just to sit and say, okay,
Yep.
like this is just how I feel. And so she was learning that, like, I can just kind of sit, I don't have to solve this.
Yep.
So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I had a client today where it was so funny. She's like, okay, so I'm going through all this. She just got out of the no phase. And she's
Uh-huh.
like, I understand it. Now I'm putting the pieces together. And I know you've talked about on the podcast, like unmet needs and, you know,
Mhm.
should I figure that out? And I was like, well, it's funny you should say,
Yeah.
this is in your next phase, baby.
Yeah. It's
So
funny that
it's
you say that
good.
because one of the girls was like, should I try and figure out why this happened? And I was like, no, I mean,
We'll get there.
like it'll be found out eventually. Or because even one of them was questioning, like, I just don't have a lot of memories from childhood, and it's not that the memories I have are bad or that I was traumatic, or like there's just,
Mhm.
I just kind of remember it, but I don't have these profound memories. Like, is that bad? And I'm like, do you think it's bad? Yeah. And she's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Should I fix it? I'm like, what's there to fix? Like, like
Yeah,
you're gonna
we're
like take a
just gonna fix
psychedelic
how
experience.
it feels
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's okay. Like it's okay to recognize, like, I have these moments that have impacted my life, but overall, this is kind of the gist of my childhood.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be anything specific. Some people have more memories of childhood than others. Like Michael remembers his whole childhood. I don't remember a lot of mine.
Yeah.
So
And some will say that's because you've been traumatized and dissociated, but we're not going to go into that. I don't think that's true for you.
yeah, me
But
either.
no, our clients 1000% influence us. What give us, this wasn't a part of the question, but it is influence. Like,
Mhm.
I think for the both of us, because we post it often, what gives us energy is that client who reaches out. And like I posted one recently, you've posted them, that is our previous client. And they're like, I'm still doing the things. And
Uh-huh.
you know that was a person who yo-yo dieted and fluctuated. And we have been able to create a program that helps them to create a foundation underneath themselves. And that is a big influence as well, because if we didn't have that, then we wouldn't have the outcomes, and we'd have to redo this. Like we'd have to look at ourselves and say, like, maybe this isn't working, but we get that often, and it's wonderful. So it's a good mix of, I think, influence. And for some people too, it's like even looking at the people in their lives that aren't healthy, like
Yeah.
I know for some of our clients are like, that's actually my why is I'm a nurse and I see people dying from cardiovascular disease every day, and that's my influence, so I love it, and I'm thankful for those people who have guided me. One more person I want to give a shout out to, who's never going to hear this, is Gary Hees. He was my mentor for 8 months. 8 months I worked at a therapeutic school.
Mhm.
And Gary taught me so much about putting the puzzle pieces together of looking at behaviors or even messages, sentences that people say, and being able to take that sentence and use it in a way that's so impactful to them that it like jars them. I love when clients are like, my therapist hasn't even asked me that. And I'm sure you get that too. Like, they're like, no one's ever asked me that question before. And Gary is the reason I have the knowledge in doing that. And I love him and I hope he's well. And those 8 months, and he also is who trained me in post-induction therapy, which ultimately is how I created this program. So boom. And you and our team and all of our clients and all of the people, and Mark Hathaway, who does our accounting, and Melissa Smallwood, who does my tax. I'm just kidding. I'd like to thank the Academy. Oh, and
They're gonna
Ira.
for you soon. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
and Ira.
Yeah.
Ira, we love you. You are our heart and soul. So that's it.
That's that.
Anything else? Is that all our questions?
Yeah, I think so. I was gonna look real quick, but I think so.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
are amazing. Thank you for the questions.
Good
Please,
questions.
yeah, keep them coming. We have our self-guided questionnaire too. So I haven't even looked at that yet because that just started. But for
Oh,
those in
no.
the self-guided program, each reflection you have an opportunity to get coaching with us on this podcast. So it's an actual like questionnaire that they fill out, and
Oh, cool.
we can get more info on them. So that will be something that we look forward to. So awesome. If you guys like this information and you want to see our faces on a daily, please follow us on socials. Myself and the team are at Mindset of Matter Coaching, and Coach Amanda is also at fitbyamanda.az. You will find the recordings of this on YouTube. And guess what, baby? We'll be back in the studio soon, so you won't have to see our grills and like our missing hair from the like virtual backgrounds.
Your Abraham Lincoln hat.
I didn't know I was podcasting with Abraham Lincoln. That is at the Mindset of Matter Coaching. If you want to chat with us and sign up for a clarity call, which someone just did. So that was yeehaw, baby. You'll find the link below. And what else are we linking below? The video. Yeah. Ira, link it, baby. And if you love this podcast, listen, guys, we want to get into more people's ears. So please, if you do not mind and you love what we're doing, please give us a 5-star rating and review, subscribe, like, do all of the things, and that will help us get out to more folks. And other than that, we are really hoping that you remember this one thing.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Bye.